Sebastian Budget Review Advisory Committee to order at 6 p.m. on Monday, May the 16th. Let's start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. All stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's have a roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. McGinn?
Who?
Mr.
Here.
McGinn?
I'm here.
Thank you. Ms.
He's on
Reed?
Zoom.
Ms. Reed?
Here.
Mr. Hall?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan?
Here.
Mr. Napier?
Present.
Mr. Hoffman?
Here.
Mr. Newhart?
Here.
Mr. Wilson? Is he absent?
Yes, he did notify us, Mr. Wilson did, that he would be absent tonight.
Okay, and Ms. Serta?
Mr. Wilson, but he didn't give us a reason, right?
He didn't state a reason, no. And Amber Serta,
Well, I guess we'll give him one more excused. Since he did tell us he wasn't going to be here, we'll let that be an excused absence.
Okay.
and Amber Serta just notified me that she had a conflict at her work, so.
Okay.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, and
Thank you.
that means that both alternate members here tonight will be able to vote. So we have one on Zoom and two absent, right? Mr. Wilson's on Zoom.
No, Mr. McGinn is on Zoom.
Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the meeting of February 14th, 2022. Has everyone had a chance to review those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve them as presented.
I'd like to make a correction first, right on page
okay.
2. The very first part of it, it says, you nominated me for chairperson and the motion was seconded by Mr. Again. And Mr. Hill nominated Mr. Hoffman. That should be Mr. Hall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think Mayor Hill was here.
No, he was.
So
And-
that, now, you made the motion to approve with that
With that correction.
correction?
Excuse me, there's one other thing. There's a typo on page 3 where Mr. McGinn was misspelled as Mr. McGill.
That's me.
Okay. That's another one that's corrected.
Yes.
Your motion will be as corrected.
Yeah, with both corrections.
Was there a second?
Second.
Second by Dave, thank you. All those in favor of approval of the minutes signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries unanimously. Next on the agenda is review of the second quarter financial report for fiscal 22. Ken, you're on.
Thank you. So as normal, we provide the agenda item write-up that I would give to the city council as far as the second quarter amendment. It includes the resolution for them to adopt any of the amendments. The third page, I've given you a corrected sheet. I think you all have it at your stations. So if I can go through the sheet, thanks to Bruce Hoffman, he pointed out that starting with the second line and the highlighted lines, I had a mistake on the budget before change of the R&R account. And he correctly pointed out, we started out this quarter having used $4,820 in the first quarter. So we should have started with a use of the R&R account of $4,820 as a beginning balance. the first change that we made this quarter was to use $60,338 more to have a budget after change of $65,158. And you see on the other highlighted items further down the page there that the R&R account balance, I've adjusted it on this sheet where it was in error before. So thank you, Bruce, for correcting that. I always like to try to get this as in best shape as we can. Going on to the next page where we have we present the general fund summary, you can see that the revenues after 6 months of the year are collected at 61.1%. That's mostly because of the just the ad valorem taxes that come in earlier during the year. On the expense side, we've got 53.9% after 50% of the year. But that is mostly because we pay the contribution to the police pension fund in one lump sum before December. And also the CRA contributions are made by the general fund in the first quarter of the year. I am happy to mention that one reason the revenues are higher than projected, in addition to the taxes being substantially collected, is that we have gotten all of our FEMA money from Hurricane Matthew at last. And then about a week after we received that payment, we got a notice from FEMA now that we can collect another $1,900 if we can document some administrative time that we used on Hurricane Dorian. So I'm still well, Cindy and I will be dealing with FEMA to get that last $1,900. I've added, instead of a report that I have been doing on the FEMA funds, I've added a section for the American Rescue Plan Act. We did receive the first, what they call the first tranche of the money, half of the amount that we were entitled to. We had received that and budgeted for it, or actually received it a year ago. We got a notice this last week, and I have put in then to collect actually the second half of those funds. So in our next quarter, we'll be showing another $1.6 million of the American Rescue Plan funds. And we did have the meeting we had public hearings and had a meeting with City Council to determine how those funds would be allocated. So I've listed all those items that were compiled into a budget of sorts for this year for the American Rescue Plan Act. On the just the general fund forecast, it seems apparent to me that with the savings that we normally have on expenditures, by departments not using 100% of their budgets, that we will come close probably to even the $5.8 million that we had projected as a general fund reserve. That's assuming, of course, that I don't get surprised. On the next page, we show the stormwater fund, as well as the golf, airport, and building funds. Stormwater fund, the only matter of interest, even though we've got a high amount of available funds at this point, we're still waiting on the master plan to come through, and I'm sure that we'll be allocating us all the funds probably available in stormwater to those projects. The golf course is having an excellent year as far as revenues with the amount of play, and we should meet our projected balances for the end of the year if they continue to perform. So the airport is right on target with their revenue collections. They're doing quite well as far as on the expenditure side. Building fund, of course, with the amount of permit activity, they are doing very well. As usual, we gave you all the more detail of the various funds and accounts that we manage. And we give a capital project status report. And as of March 31st, the thing I would point out here is that a large part of the budgeted amount of funds are for canal improvements. There was $23 million, most of which was coming from FEMA. And that is still in the process. We don't have any definite response as far as getting that funding, but that does distort the amount of progress we've made on the other projects during the year. With the American Rescue Plan, we did go ahead and back out the funding that we had on the Contra Dam replacement. We were going to assume that that would be a FEMA and stormwater funded project, but now we've got that scheduled to come from the American Rescue Plan Act, and the City Council was concerned that we weren't double budgeting, so we did make an entry to reduce the funding from FEMA and stormwater and show it as $700,000 from the American Rescue Act. We also added a couple of projects, the Gardenia Ditch for $750,000 and the Schuman Drive for $750,000 additional stormwater projects. On the next page, we show the amounts that where we've got all our city funds. Florida Trust continued to lose money in this past quarter with the market. I'm sure you understand why that might be. They are essentially invested in like 2-year Treasury securities. So we'll continue to watch that. We still are at a positive for the last 3 years, positive return. So it's not that it's a bad investment, but hopefully when interest rates increase, that we'll benefit from that as well. Interfund loans, everything is on schedule there as far as repaying those loans. As far as debt due to the outside parties, I can tell you that we've made the May 1st payment on the stormwater utility bank notes, and that was our final payment of that debt. We have the final payment on the paving improvement notes on December 1st of this year. So it won't be long until we are essentially debt-free as far as long-term debt. We do have a couple of lease purchase items that we are funding just within our annual budget appropriations. And finally, we give you the comments from the various departments on what their activities and accomplishments were in the last quarter. I'd be glad to take any questions or cover anything in more detail that you might want to inquire about.
That it?
That's my presentation, yes.
Are there any questions from the committee? I'll start down at the other end.
No, sir, no, Chair.
James, you got any questions you want to ask Ken or any comments?
No, I don't, Ken, no.
Thank you. Eric?
Is this working? I think it went off again. It turned off again.
Keeps going
Okay.
Ken, can you walk me through the benefits of hiring an airport manager versus the facilities director's portion pay?
Not sure I can address that properly. I know it was a decision to, take some of the activities that public facilities director position was handling before his retiring, and figuring that was like diluting the amount of attention that the airport and the
Is
facilities we're
the
getting.
net difference, is that an increase in the cost, an increase in the budget for the addition of the manager, airport manager? Or is there any savings, net savings, or?
Well, I understand that with his departure, he had accumulated leave time, the payouts for at his termination, so that affects this budget, even though the new person came in at a lesser rate, of course. Those payouts are what will affect this year's budget.
So is the net effect, we have 2 positions instead of 1 and an increase to the budget? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, we have.
Or did we eliminate a position?
Yeah, we
or-
eliminate. We've got one position where we had one position.
Okay,
We took and pulled out the airport portion of that with a new employee. The other portion of that work was disseminated with other staff members.
and that facilities position remains the same? It's not downgraded? So,
Well, yeah,
in effect, we just added an employee.
you had an employee that was in charge of the airport and facilities. So now we've taken the facilities part of it and reorganized basically to let existing employees handle that part of the work. And we'll have an airport director that is our airport manager that focuses only on the airport.
And so the facilities manager's pay scale remained the same, and we increased?
No, actually, there is no facilities manager.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to get to.
Yeah, we
Okay.
traded facilities manager for just an airport director, and we took the balance of the facilities director's work and distributed it with existing staff.
Okay. That's what I was trying to get to. So,
Okay, I'm sorry.
facilities manager's position has been farmed out to others, and essentially there is no facilities manager's position as was before. We just have a new
Yeah, we had two
Airport
other
manager.
department directors would still have oversight, that being the roads, the director of roads and the Parks and Recreation director. So Parks and Recreation is taking the maintenance of facilities because a lot of his activities are in facilities, so it can be under one hat,
Okay.
especially when there's decisions to be made.
Thank you.
Okay, I hope that helped.
That it, Harry?
It says.
Grace, you got anything?
Yes, just for a little clarity on my part, I guess. At the last meeting, Mr. Hoffman had asked for some little more clarity around the non-departmental funds, and I think you were going to send out something about the details of that entry because they were so far under budget. And I did notice that through Q4, they had spent only 75% of their budget, and at the end of Q2 for this year, they're already a little over 69% of their budget. So they're really going strong this year, where last year they didn't. And I don't know what goes up under non-departmental line items. I don't know what those are.
Oh, I'm sorry, I neglected to respond to that.
It's generally things that don't go in another department.
Yeah, it's a
If they don't fit
conglomerate
in
of,
another department, they go in non-departmental.
there's things that are, for instance, we've got a strategic planning consultant. So that's kind of a citywide thing and not anything specific to one department. So we've got like his consulting fees. Some of the other examples are where with workers' comp insurance, we can actually allocate that based on the employees and the rates that the employees in those departments charge. So we charge the workers' comp to each department. But on property insurance, we take, for property and liability insurance on this facility, for instance, it goes to non-departmental in one line item. So there are some things, but I can get, I'm sorry I didn't respond to that, and I'll.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not being able to see the drop down in things just
Okay.
makes my spidey sense go
I
off.
will try to do better on that, yes.
That was all I had.
That it?
Thanks, yeah.
Bruce?
Okay. Ken, would that be where the compensation study expense is, non-departmental? Well, the compensation study, is it done? Is it finalized?
It has been presented. We haven't actually taken action on it. It's because it's considered to be a negotiating
Yeah, it's your,
item.
it's in your back pocket for negotiations, right?
Yeah.
But the expense for that, was that a non-departmental item?
I believe we did take it to non-departmental. We didn't affect the HR budget, no.
So if it was in
Yeah,
there,
so
that
that
could
would
help
also be in that
explain
account.
part of why those expenses are up, yeah, right, okay. Well, let me put the glasses on here so I can read. Oh, hey, on hurricanes, are we still sitting on the $80,000?
Yes, sir. It's in a liability account. When they come asking for it, then I'll
That's
be happy to
incredible.
turn it over.
Okay. Hey, let me go over to my favorite beat 'em all, the golf course or golf fund. Are they going to do the ditch drainage work? It's not been canceled,
I
right?
haven't heard any direction to cancel the project, no.
Okay. And we won't know for another 3 or 4 months whether we're going to make a general fund payment or not, right?
I, purposely kind of delay it to make sure the golf course is,
Yeah, well, I know they've got, again, that's my favorite whack-a-mole, so. Okay,
Revenues are up, though.
yeah, I know, but they're just never gonna be able to, there just isn't enough money coming in. I don't know what we would ever. Hey, question for you, like on the capital improvements list, capital projects. How come we can't just finish off some of these projects from, I know the airport's another issue, but like park signage from 2019, it's 3 years ago. And do we have no one that just addresses this stuff particularly?
well, we've been going for the last several years with allocating money for the signage, and the 30,000 remaining in that account on the.
So it just
first
keeps
line.
coming out of that one line item, and we leave that there rather than somehow rolling that money forward into a.
Well, the
into a-
30,000 is actually the funding of this year of some additional signs that weren't in the original projects.
Okay.
This capital budget has a 5-year life, though, right? The
A
capital budget's approved for 5
rolling
years.
life, yes.
Yeah, that's a part of the regular budget.
So
The
we-
capital improvements fund is a 5-year deal, with the current year being funded in 4 out years.
Yeah, but we're talking about going back to 2019.
Yeah.
And of course,
So
Well,
you're
remember, that
saying
was-
we can leave those
that
there
was just
for
prior to
5
COVID.
years and let them before they're actually need to be closed out?
We would probably question it before 5 years. That probably got a little behind because of COVID. That was right when all the
Yeah, I know
lockdown
that
stuff
started.
started.
That's, I mean, the airport's a whole separate system. And it's like the septic to sewer grant money that's in there for 2020. I mean,
yeah, we
I
just,
know it's just left sitting there, but the reality is no one's knocking down the door to take down the money. It's like, close the project and bring it forward, and I don't know. It just seems like it doesn't make any sense.
we try to, look at those particularly at year end when we discuss whether some projects should continue to the following year. But sometimes it's just discretionary, depending on the account and the nature of what kind of activity's been experienced there and what they tell us that, is still a need to apply the funds to.
The stormwater utility final payment, does that's gonna be paid, or was paid just this month, right?
Yes.
Now, that's paid out of the stormwater utility fund now?
No, actually, if you remember back,
DST.
That had a separate funding source at that time,
yeah, back
right?
when we were having trouble funding everything that was needed in the stormwater, we said, well, rather than pay that debt with stormwater fees, because
Right.
it's a capital,
So that was
expenditure.
that was DST money.
it qualified for DST, yes. So we've been paying it out of that source.
And where did when we make the payment in December for the paving improvements, what was the funding
The
source?
paving is out of local option gas tax
Oh,
funds.
That's the
Gas
option,
tax
that's
money.
the gas tax.
Do you see that
Well, look, we're gonna have-
LOGT? That LOGT designation out there for funding source?
Oh, there it is,
That's,
local
that
option.
tells you where the money comes from.
Okay,
And that's been about 400,000 plus a year that we've been paying out of gas tax money, so hopefully that'll allow us to allocate more funding to roads.
thank you.
Is that it, Bruce?
Yes.
Dave?
I'm good.
Rex, you got anything out there on Zoom you'd like to ask or say? Hello?
Nobody's raised their hand?
Yeah, Terrence again. I have two comments. One's an observation about the increase in golf course revenues. I learned through a couple of people that one of the reasons for the increase in golf usage was that Grand Harbor closed some of their golf courses, which overloaded Sand Ridge, and it drove the Sand Ridge people to Sebastian. And that created, I'm sure nobody made that connection, but it's one of the reasons why we've had a better year. My other question was, during the council meeting, he talked about the stamped paving because they're going to repave part of Route 1 near Main Street. Will that be a new capital budget item? I think it's in 2023.
I didn't get the question.
In the, on last council meeting, they were talking about, the repaving of US 1 between Harrison and,
That wouldn't be
Yeah.
the city, that would be the state.
well, I know it, but what they've worked in is digging up the decorative crosswalks and replacing it with regular painted parking and crosswalks to the tune of 300,000 that's not in the budget.
350, yeah.
But it's not until 2023, so they don't have to make any decisions on that right now. But that I'm hoping they just leave it alone.
Why would the city be paying for something
Well-
on the state road?
Well, the city
another
paid
whole
for the
subject. That's
decoratives
just a half
to
hour.
start with. They worked it in. They worked that into the original plan when they paved it to keep the pretty in the city.
Yeah.
And now they want, if they want to keep it, they have to work it back in, I think was I
Right.
believe is what it was.
Yep.
So, and it would be, they've already paid 300,000 for it one time, and it'd be another 300,000 to, I don't know, it was just,
That is a risk you take when
It
you're
was-
working with the
and
state.
then when
on
they said it's not even anywhere in the budget, but it's not in this year's, or the one coming, it's in the following one.
That is correct.
It's in the out years, in
Yes.
23.
Ken, mine was
Well,
a
one coming is-
procedural question. The procedural question was, would that be added to the capital budget in 2023? I know it's not in 2022.
Would it be added to the capital budget for 2023?
From the minutes I read, I wasn't able to attend that meeting and hear it personally, but when I read the minutes, it indicated to me that that was kind of a council direction to provide it in 22, 23.
Right.
So yeah, it would be in this year's capital program shown as a project for the following year.
Well, if they do it, it would have to be added in there, right? You would have to amend the capital budget to add that in?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But now, as we were talking about before, the capital budget is a rolling cycle. So when it comes to actually funding it in that next year, that would be appropriate.
How long ago was that we paid for those improvements out there, that 300,000?
10 years. I think 10 years ago.
How many was that, Terry?
10, I believe
10.
it was 10 years. It was a long discussion among the council people, and I think you're gonna find that this council is gonna approve that, and it will, that's why my question was, it would go in, I was asking if it went in the 22-23 budget, and Ken said yes.
I guess that's a negotiation Mr. Carlisle will have to do.
Right.
That
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll handle it.
It'll be his call. It's his recommended budget, so.
Is that it, Rex?
That's it.
Okay, and the only thing I'd like to say is I see the improvement in the golf course. It's like $140,000 more revenue than the same period a year ago. It's turning positive. But I notice a lot of DST money, the discretionary sales tax, being used in the airport fund. Does the airport pay back that DST money? That it's just like a loan so they can do something? Because it's an enterprise fund just like the golf course, and it'll be paying its own way too.
Yeah, there's been direction by the city manager, although I don't think there's any ordinance or resolution that really puts it in cement. But his direction is that when it's an airport project that, to match a grant for an airport project that is revenue producing, like a hangar facility, then yes, we want to start trying to, because the airport collects rent then on those facilities, so we want to start paying back those advances for those revenue producing items. So if it's a grant just to resurface a runway, then
I still think we ought to be funding
feel
the
like
capital improvements at the golf course with recreation impact fee money to the tune that's available, and using the golf course money. I think that's only fair. Because in my opinion, that's the best recreation amenity in the city. It and Barber Street Sports Complex are the two main recreation amenities in this city.
I agree that we should make that recommendation.
We should, it should be,
Yes.
we should work that in and use some of that recreation impact fee money for that.
there
If
have
there's no
been-
other prohibition that I'm not aware of.
Even DST funds can be used towards the golf course if it's infrastructure type expenditures. You can't use it for maintenance, but you can use DST. The problem with rec impact fees is
Well, all in all, I think it was a very good quarter. I think it was very positive for the city. We'll move on to, the next meeting date is July the 11th. That's still, we're still on schedule for that? That's still a go so far? No reason to look past that?
I don't anticipate a change, no.
Okay. Everybody good with July 11th? Okay. General discussion by the members. I'll start with you, Dave. I'll start down at that end this time.
No, I'm good.
Bruce?
Hey, Ken, I did forget to ask one question. Let me just, under the American Rescue Plan, contingency. How the hell did we get away with doing that? I mean, don't you have to have a specific purpose for every one of those dollars?
Nothing in the regulations say you have to budget every dollar. It does say you have to spend it within, before 2024, but
So they haven't found a specific use for it yet?
So we just have it sitting there waiting, but we gotta spend it or they're gonna want it back.
well, just understand that a lot of our projects end up being higher than originally
Yeah.
pulled
It's
out of the air.
appropriated, so it's there to be used.
Okay, so that's the contingency for the Concha Dam not coming in at 750,000. It'll be 800,000.
Yeah, and if not, we, hopefully before the time the clock ran out, we would reallocate it to some other projects, so.
Great explanation.
Good. Grace?
I'm all set, thank you.
Harry?
I just asked, what's the time limit on those American Rescue Plan fund, those dollars? How long do we got to spend them?
We have to obligate the monies by December of 2024, I believe it is. They have to be obligated, and that, that's to have a contract in place or
It has to
something.
be spent or encumbered, right?
Well,
You've been
the wording they
encumbered?
use is obligated, which
Yeah.
I take as being like not just
Yeah.
a budget item, but something that's actually concrete that says you've got a contract to do the work. We got actually to 2026 to disperse the money.
Actually, spend the bucks.
Yeah.
And what guidance did they provide, or prohibitions on what we could or could not spend on? I'm sure it's been discussed ad nauseum, but
You wouldn't believe the amount of guidelines, but we boiled it down, and that's when we had the public hearings to kind of, I give a PowerPoint presentation on that. I can
I can
provide
get it
that
from
to
you.
you if you like, but, generally, there's 4 categories. You can use it for, I would say, enhancing your staff. Which of course we avoid any kind of ongoing commitment. So we did give incentive, what we called retention payments to
Yes.
encourage people not to
That was a
leave.
good
We gave
decision.
them a one-time shot out of the funding. You can use it for COVID type, addressing COVID improvements but they encourage you most of all to focus it on infrastructure that will either make your citizens more comfortable or safe. They do mention utility improvements. The final regulations actually address stormwater, which was not in the original packet of preliminary instructions. But so, we're mostly focusing in our case on the stormwater area.
Great. I can get that PowerPoint from you, right?
Well, yes, I'd be glad
You
to.
said this PowerPoint that covers it more in detail?
I think it probably gives you a good summary. I mean, I can give you the whole regulations if you like.
No, summary's fine.
Okay.
Thank you, I just
I'll make a point to
appreciate
do that.
Thank you, sir.
Rex, anything you'd like to add?
Hey, am I Rex this week?
That's Terry. Terry McGann is up there. He's on Zoom. That's Terry McGann.
It's Rex on Zoom, isn't it?
Terry McGann.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry, Terry, I've been calling you Rex because I marked these down wrong.
That's all right, I've been enjoying it.
I thought Rex was on Zoom.
Call them late for dinner, that's all.
Yeah. Okay, and I have nothing else that I need to add. Public comments, I see no member from the public in here. Janet, is there somebody out there on Zoom from the public?
Nobody's raised their hand.
No, nothing? Okay, being no further discussion for the good of the order,